Hello and welcome to Future Church. I'm Stephen Smith of St. Patrick's Episcopal Church in Dublin, Ohio. In my last episode, I talked about how we're in the third era of the church, an era of benign neglect, where for the most part, people who are outside our doors really don't care much what we have to say, and our society is becoming increasingly secular. As Dietrich Bonhoeffer said back in the 30s, we have learned to answer all the important questions about life without reference to God as a working hypothesis. And so the prevailing question in our era is, does God even matter? And I think we in the church can answer that question by appealing to the previous eras. In the era of persecution and formation, which was the first era of the church, we were really obsessed with liturgies of baptism and ordination, because they answered the prevailing question of that day and age, which was, are you serious? Are you serious enough to join this group that could get you killed or thrown to the lions? And so they answered the question, does God matter? By really talking about ethics. How do you live your life? Are you going to live your life as if God matters? And so when people were brought for baptism as adults, the bishop would ask their friends and family members, who also happened to be Christian, what is this person like? They would even ask their neighbors who were members of the church, what is this person you're presenting for baptism? What are they like? Are they good to their parents? Do they care for the widow and orphan in their midst? Do they live a good and upstanding life? The point was, are you serious enough to really live your faith as a part of a subculture within the Roman Empire that the Roman Empire may even persecute? The early Christians were trying to live above reproach. If they were going to be persecuted, then they at least had to stand up for themselves and say, we have been good people, regardless of what the Roman Empire thinks of us. And so in our day and age, to answer the question, does God matter? We have to answer it as if God matters to us. And in that way, we have to live good and ethical lives, to live lives as if God matters, to be good people, to care for one another, the widow and the orphan, our family, our friends, to be in essence above reproach. There have been plenty of justified accusations against the church of hypocrisy, and we need to live those down by living up to our highest moral standards. Maybe a place we can begin is the way in which we Christians treat one another, which hasn't been very positive, especially in recent years. I mean, to watch Westboro Baptist Church protest at other churches' meetings and conventions, or even at their worship services, that's hardly demonstrating the love of Christ. And if we can't demonstrate the love of Christ to one another, how can we demonstrate it to the world around us? I've seen very heated debates in the church about theology, about issues of ethics, about issues, for instance, around ordination of people who are homosexual in the Episcopal Church. And in those debates, I've watched our leaders lie publicly to the media to get their point across and make themselves look better. I've known of colleagues who have had their offices ransacked, had incriminating evidence put on their computers by those who disagreed with them, who've received death threats. I even know of one instance where a colleague's dog was poisoned to death by somebody who disagreed with her. How can we get across the Christian message of love for all people when we Christians can't even treat each other well? You know, if we use unchristian means to defend our Christian beliefs, we've defended nothing but our own egos. It's time for those of us who are in the Christian church, who have stayed in the midst of this secularizing age, it's time for us to live up to our best selves. It's time for us to treat each other in the Christian community as brothers and sisters in the faith, even if we disagree theologically. Once we do that, we may be able to convince the world around us that we see them as our brothers and sisters in Christ as well. I'm Stephen Smith for Future Church. Stay tuned.